Welcome to the Neuro Wednesdays here on TopstepTV. So we have another session with Dr. Jerome D. But before then, I'm just going to do a little recap of my day yesterday. Obviously, in the morning, I tried, a couple of things, and then throughout the day, those shorts in copper, they kind of brought a partial move. Now we're seeing a complete reversal and just yeah the liquidation move that I was looking for. So I'm going to still try to be short today on copper if I can get some sort of a pullback or maybe another breakout, but I do need some extra references. Overall, we're doing well. This was a payout, so the equity curve is still looking pretty smooth. All right, so with that out of the way, let's get Jerome in with the slides. Jerome, welcome. Very good to see you. What have you got for us today?
Good morning. How are we doing today? How is everybody doing?
Yeah, let's see how the
Today we
chat is
got
doing.
a Neuro Wednesday, so we have our usual students. I would say perhaps we have new people because we try to gather new listeners, new auditors. So today we'll go through a couple topics, mainly topics we've been through already. The goal would be to share. We'll try to share more practices with you and more practical examples, and we'll do a Q&A as usual. What do you think?
Excellent. It sounds good. Yeah, let's dive straight into it. I know that we have some people who have gotten a lot of value from these, and they're starting to understand that even though we just click a button to enter a trade, which kind of seduces people to think trading is easy, but really we have to have some pretty sophisticated psychological skills in order to make this work long term. And this is why we're here. This is why we're doing these Neuro Wednesdays. All right, so let's recap. It is the end of the month, so let's get into it. Let's
Exactly.
get
Thank you.
real,
So
right?
exactly. So for the first listeners, Coach Deeyana made a nice introduction. So these sessions are made so you can understand what is happening in the human brain when we trade without overcomplicating it, and understanding how we can deal with wins, with losses, with winning days, with losing days, with winning streaks, losing streaks, all these things that mess up with our emotions and feelings and thoughts, and indeed with our reaction. So last week we saw the real method we shared with you guys. So regulate, envision, align, and learn. Just out of curiosity, how many people like tried it at least once, and who benefited from it, or who felt some difference or some strength into applying it? Feel
Yeah,
free
let's
to type
let's
in
hear
the
it in the
chat,
chat. Yeah,
and if
yeah,
you have questions, we can go through them.
yeah.
But basically, today we'll start with hesitation. So hesitation is, it's not caution, it's not being cautious, it's what we could call emotional residue. And so you're not hesitating because you're being careful, you're hesitating because some part of you hasn't let go of the last mistake or the last loss, or the voice that says don't be wrong again. And so this puts you in a certain state. So uh, when you win, we have what we call the post-win stupidity, which is for me the one of the hidden P&L killer. So nobody talks about it, but you make your dumbest trades or biggest losing trades right after the best one. Why? Why does this happen? Why in high performing sports, when you're an athlete, why do you have a big loss also after a big win? Because your brain is drunk on dopamine and thinks it's easy now. The win makes you feel you're done, yeah, it's done, I'm done, I'm good, I'm god, I can do it and I can reproduce it. Yes, you can, but if you reproduce it with this mindset, it's not going to help you, it's going to break you. And so the market isn't done with you, it's patiently watching if you can reset. So your edge, we talk a lot about the edge. Your edge has a personality, your personality is part of your edge, so learn it or lose it. You
Yeah, it's
don't
big
execute
truth.
your edge.
Yeah. I've seen in the VIP coaching, people are like, oh, I've got a great strategy, but I can't really follow it. Well, that's a part of your strategy, right? Your mindset, how you behave, and whether you can actually follow something. If you can't, then maybe it's not the right strategy, right? We see a lot of scalpers who are trying to be scalpers. They're very against, moving into maybe more of an intraday swing traders, or just reducing the amount of trades they do per day, right? And they're very resistant to the idea. They're like, no, I'm a scalper. It's almost like it's their identity. And yet they mess it up at least once a week. That causes a blow up of the account. It's like, is that the strategy, or is it like the entirety of yourself with that strategy that is causing the blow up every so often? And many people go through many years never really exploring that, and it's interesting to hear how we can deal with that because it will help
Completely.
help me in my coaching as well, right?
But you mentioned scalping, and a
Yeah,
scalper needs aggression.
yeah.
It needs aggressivity. A swing trader would more likely need boredom tolerance. Because it's a lot more boring to be a swing trader. A parent trader, which is not something I would necessarily advise, but needs context memory because it will need to shape things. So, what does your edge need from you? What do you need? What do you need? Sorry, Coach Deeyana mentioned identity. What is your identity, and what does your edge need from you? Indeed. So we talk about win, and we talk about losses as well. So the story you tell after a loss wires your next trade. We talked about it, and we'll get deeper in it right now. So how you close a trade, especially a losing one, writes the code for your identity. So let's say two traders lose 300. One says, I suck. And the other says, that setup didn't work. Next. Okay. So it's easier said like that. I completely understand, but it's real. Guess which one makes it like through the year, or not necessarily through payout fastest, let's say, or through funded level. So you're not journaling for the sake of memory. Journaling is not a homework somebody obliges you to do, right? It's a choice, it's a free will, it's part of discipline. So you're journaling to rewire the narrative machine in your brain. So after the loss, the most important thing is not the journaling, it's the story you allow to stick. What do you tell yourself? What did the loss, how did the loss occur? Is it because you suck, or is it because the timing? Is it because execution? Is it because of news? What is the story you're telling yourself? So we we merge this with neutrality. With Coach Deeyana, we shared previous weeks that neutral is the new alpha, and neutral doesn't mean being weak. It's a weaponized clarity. So I know, stay neutral.
Weaponized.
Yeah,
Weaponized
weaponized.
clarity.
Exactly.
Like that.
And staying neutral sounds like emotional yoga, but it's not. It means you don't need the win. It means you don't chase the recovery. It means you don't let emotion leak into logic. uh, Logic brain versus limbic hijack system. So you're not cold, you're just clean. It's different. It's how you perceive the concept of neutrality as well. So neutrality is how you execute with edge over hundreds of trades. And professional always say trading is boring and the trade as neutral as possible, because confidence will lie to you, but neutral won't. With neutrality, you will have the state necessary to be able to listen, to identify what state you are in.
So,
What do you
what
think of
can
this?
people do? Because I know that most new traders, and even some of them who have been trading for years, they still don't have that neutrality. I think it was just yesterday that somebody asked me. I think I was doing the 150K subscriber session, and they said, I still get excited for wins, and I still get really down on myself when I lose. How can I change that? Is there anything that we can actively do aside from like visualizations, just like physically, to get ourselves to that neutral state? Or is it a matter of just practicing it deliberately over and over until it sort of seeps into your brain?
Uh, I mean, there's a lot to do mentally, of course. sorry, there's a lot to do mentally, and we go all through this on the slides that you can find and during our sessions. But physically, you can basically stand up, walk away, walk off the chart. If you are in a room, you can just walk to the door and come back. You don't necessarily need to go for a walk or a run or whatever you need.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you need, do it. But you don't need to do things you don't feel the need to. That's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's a difference, right? So physical activity releases cortisol, lowers cortisol level, which is the stress hormone, and
Mm-hmm.
increases testosterone levels, which is self-trust hormone as well. So another thing you can do as well, and this has been proven many times, and I have been using this since 2015, because I discovered that in 2015. So an MIT study on students showed that body posture, and we'll speak about it today, body posture impacts our physiology. So we studied why some students would be more attentive than others at school. And we noticed that the students that were like that, or that were sleeping on their
Mm-hmm.
table, were less attentive, and the students who had a better uh, serious focused posture were more attentive. But what does lead to this posture? So basically, I discovered a magic trick in the body. It's basically this: you pull your arms up
Mm-hmm.
and you put them on the back, and you kind
Yeah.
of stretch yourself. And once you do it for 20 to 40 seconds, it releases oxytocin, and lowers the cortisol and
Wow.
increases testosterone in an instant. And so you just breathe, and you do this a couple times a day, and you will notice the difference. And I would literally do this every time I used to study and feel like some fatigue or stuff like that, and it completely changed me, and I use it in trading as well.
Funnily enough, I do that. I didn't know about that, but I do that naturally. Like every time I'm finished with the trade, I go, I think a couple of times when we were on the main broadcast, they kind of tried cutting the main feed, but then they sort of left us, and I was doing I was doing that, and I looked like a complete crazy person. And people were like, "Dee, what are you doing?" And I was like, "It's just stretching the stretch." But yeah, it feels good. It kind of gets you in, like gets the blood flowing a little bit. But yeah, it's something I do naturally. I didn't even know. Okay, interesting.
Indeed, we do this naturally. The study shows that we do this naturally without knowing it. And it's based on when we are happy, we are just like, woo, like that, you know. And we studied this, and we studied that primates, like gorillas, do the same. And the whole process of the studies is and very interesting.
Yeah.
So you don't fail because of emotion. Students of our segments know that, but you fail because you act from it. So of course you can fail because it just didn't work. But here we are to talk about when you break your rules. If you have rules that are well set up and you respect them, losing is part of these rules. But the Neuro Wednesday segment is made so you can deal and manage how to reduce when you break rules, so that you can not break rules like forever, ideally,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
emotion isn't the issue, it's acting without noticing it is. So the problem isn't the fear, it's believing it's a signal, you know, it's being a victim of it, sort of. The problem isn't the greed, it's letting it steer the wheel. In therapy
Allowing it to
we
take over and then just
exactly.
going along with it instead of trying to get ahead of it and just going, oi, hold up a minute. Let's just see what's going on there and why. So what do we do next? We come back to that sort of like intention thing. It's like every time you're talking about, oh, let's try and take over. You know, let's do a deliberate thought process. I'm immediately thinking, yeah, that's immediately changing the intention behind what you're going to do next. It's very interesting.
Intention is a thank you for this. Intention and attention are two mental skills. We call them mental skills, power of the brain. So th- there are books about intention and attention. So it's very well underrated. So in therapy, we use the metaphor of emotion is a passenger. So you decide if it grabs the wheel. Um, Emotion doesn't have like arms or legs. It can't like put a gun on your head or whatnot, you know. It's just you decide if it grabs the wheel, and then there's arms taking the wheel. So when you feel it, it's fine. You just name it. You can go through our previous sessions. We learn how to name them and how it helps. If you want to act on it, pause, breathe, step away. And if you can't pause, just don't trade. And if you don't agree with this, then if you fail, you just paid the bill you ordered, you know.
Yeah, and
So
trading that gets very expensive.
it does. And sometimes the mental and emotional capital is more expensive than the P&L,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah,
So
the toll that it takes when we create our psychological traumas, that's a big one.
exactly. And that's one of the topics of today. So
Oh,
your first loss didn't tilt you. Your first thought about it did. And we previously teach that we can't necessarily control the first thought or the first impulse, but we can always change the second one.
yeah.
So the loss was math. Then came the thought, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have entered this trade. I shouldn't have had put this size or blah, blah, blah. Then I've got to make it back. So tilt starts in your brain and it ends in your account.
Mm.
So we call it emotional hijack, but it's not a real hijack. It's you grabbing the wheel and flooring it, you know, leaving it. Tilt, it's not a mood, it's a sequence. In therapy, when we have patients that have CBA, compulsive behavioral activities, there's a certain protocol, a certain process to deal and help with these patients and their behaviors. And tilt is a behavior. So if you repeat it, it becomes a compulsive behavior, a behavior that damages you. So you need to understand it. It's a sequence. So if you learn, yeah, go ahead.
So what would you say to people? Because I know a lot of people suffer from this, right? But their first line of resistance is to then go and punish themselves. It's like, oh, you're an idiot, you're this, and now you're going to be doing that. And, they're punishing themselves by, like, let's say they had 5 accounts, they blew them up, and they're like, well, now you're only going to trade one account until what are your thoughts about people who are doing that? Because I don't think that's a very, very, very good thing to do.
Punishing yourself,
Yeah.
yeah, it's one of the worst thing you can do.
Mm.
You would often hear me say, don't think I've said it yet, but in a daily life, as a friend or relative, you would often hear me say, don't be harsh on yourself,
Mm-hmm.
because the way you talk to yourself impacts more than you could think, uh, the way you behave and the way you are. If you have enough confidence in you, you will express it. You will physically and externally express it. But if you ruminate bad thoughts and you punish yourself, you self-sabotage, you think, for example, I suck, or I'm a piece of garbage, or I can't do anything, or I cannot be successful, or this is not for me, or things like that, then you will shape the image you are thinking about. But
Mm-hmm.
what if you
So
thought
it
about, yeah,
so it completely hinders what they're trying to achieve. So they want to get better, and they think that they're going to get better by punishing themselves. And the complete opposite is actually true. You need to replace whatever you're doing with something different.
exactly,
If
it's
I'm
like
yeah.
waiting for the sun, but it's raining, and then
Yeah.
it's raining and you're like, I'm wet, it's raining, I didn't have
This
anything to
always happens
cover
to
it, you
me.
know.
This
But
always
it's
happens
gonna
to me.
stop, right?
Yeah.
Like the next
Yeah.
day or
Yeah.
2 hours later, it's gonna be sunny
Yeah. Yeah.
again. So
It's funny.
it's letting the intensity of what's happening absorb you and define you. So
Mm.
who are you? I mean, who are you? Today is not the the topic of the day. That's another session. But do you identify to what is happening, and do you identify to the reaction you are giving, whether it's in training or in daily life? We speak about road rage, for example. If you express road rage, is this what defines you, or is this the reaction your body and brain is giving because this is the sequence that is trained? And if this is it, Then once you become aware of it, which is the first step, yet extremely difficult, but that's why we are here to help. Then you can step away, step back, and after being aware, you can focus on how to help it, how to manage it. But not being aware means you're completely blinded. You're folded into a situation you don't have clear sight on, and we'll speak about it later on the chart as well. So yeah, thank you for this point. The thing is, Coach Deeyana, why do you think people struggle with having success in trading, not necessarily in life, but because
Most of the time it's because there is no process. So we tackled in the VIP just last week, someone asked me, hey, I struggle with my entries. Can we talk about that? And I was like, this is where I kind of have a bit of expert blindness, where I've been doing this for so long. And I'm like, yeah, of course you have your defined setups. And it never actually occurred to me that most people have not defined their setups very clearly, both on the chart and in their mind, what they're looking for. So we did a whole video, I did a whole session around that, how to better time your entries. I introduced them to flow diagrams to just really go level. What do I want to see? What do I not want to see? Price action that I've noticed before when the setup worked versus when the setup didn't work. Increase in volume, no volume, things like that, right? So that's a checklist. It is a process. But I'm kind of surprised to know that most people didn't have that. And then as I was talking, one of the VIPs said, because I said, how do you time your entries? I was like, intro into the next section. And he goes, badly. I time my entries badly. And I was like, okay, well, you know where the problem is. Now let's see if we can develop a process around it. And, I don't know how people trade without it, frankly, But that's me. I was always a little bit more data-driven, or a lot more data-driven.
thank you. Well, you did it better than the slide. For me, it's the reason why people don't have process. Indeed, is I think because it's extremely boring, and extremely
Yeah.
is an important word here, and that is why it works. I mean, whether the process of building a strategy or the process of executing your process, uh, it's a whole thing. And emotion wants chaos. So in the brain, process wants rhythm. So what doesn't care how you feel? A checklist, a sequence, a process. And the more emotional the session, the more mechanical you get. So what if you built, uh, let's call it the process armor? So
I love
you
that.
build the same pre-trade review. So you have a pre-trade review sort of list protocol, but you have the same. You gotta have the same pre-trade review. You do the same breath before every click. You take the habit of taking a breath before every click, and to have the same checklist after every close, every trade, every day. But build this process. It's 3 simple steps. You're not killing emotion by doing it, and it's not the point. You're just making it irrelevant. You're focusing your brain on the sun, not the rain, not being wet, on the heat that's gonna hit you. So the brain is very tricky, but we are smarter than it to trick it. So once you know how to do it, it's easier to execute it. And
We have a question in the chat
oh
from
yeah,
Mohammed
please.
Nurani. What exactly do you mean when you say process, and how can one build it? It's a bit of a loaded question for today, but you effectively have the same levels. So if you look on my chart, if you've been here for any of these sessions, I don't have a million different levels every single day. I always have about 4 references that are the same on my charts, right? I have the value area, I have my exhaustion zones, I have the initial balance, and I have some options levels. That's it, right? And it's the same every day. I don't go, oh, one day I'm now going to use a moving average. Oh, that didn't work. The next day, let's try using an RSI oversold, overbought. Oh, that doesn't work either. Let me use another thing. So it's never like that. There is always the same levels, always the same thing, always the same playbooks that I'm looking for. And I have about 5 playbooks with about several variations, but they're 5 core playbooks. So I never engage in trades that don't look like one of those playbooks. So that's something that you have to develop. Most people just sit down, click the button, and think that that's how you continue to be consistent. But the truth is, before you get to that point, before you see all of us clicking buttons who have been doing this for probably longer than you have, we had to develop that process through experience, right? It didn't just come to us out of, nobody gave it to me on a silver platter, right? I had to work very hard and do a lot of journaling to figure out what time of day does this setup happen, what levels do we have here, and how can I get into it, what happened last time, what did the price action look like, and that's what I mean by process. And I like to use flow diagrams for that. Maybe I could dedicate a session to this as well, just to give people an idea of what that looks like. But yeah, developing a process is a long, it takes a long time, right? It's not something you're going to get tomorrow, but you can start by going back in time and looking at how your winning trades played out, and then just simply objectively going to see what actually happened. Let's say use test of VWAP and a bounce. Did it overshoot? By how much did it overshoot VWAP? How did it reclaim it? Was there any kind of a bullish reversal on a lower time frame? How did it look on a 30-minute time frame? Did the open and close of the next candle, the close and the open of the next candle, end up above VWAP, ergo reclaiming it, right? And how much did we then move away from that before it sort of fizzled out or stopped? So that will be the sign that you're slowly working towards a process, because you're going back, you're analyzing the trade, so that when that trade appears again, you will know all variations that trade can happen. Bounce from VWAP. What does it look like last 100 times? And then what does it look like when it won't work? Is it maybe the 30-minute chart closing underneath VWAP when you're looking for longs? Well, in your process, that's actually something that should tell you, we're probably bleeding through VWAP. Maybe I shouldn't be getting involved in this. So, that is a very, very loaded question, but hopefully, you can kind of start to get the idea of how the process is created. It's always do some trading, review, try to put them in some sort of a framework, and then carry on forward.
Thank you, Coach Deeyana. Beautiful answer. Cannot add anything, but to say process is like an inception. Like you can develop a process to build a process. So we could give you a 4-hour answers, like a philosophical exam, right? What is a process?
We could
4
be here
hours.
all
Good luck.
day.
Exactly. But yeah, couldn't give a better answer. Hope it helped, Mohammed.
Yeah.
So you could also have what was that? No, we finished that. Exactly. Discipline. We often share that discipline is perceived as heavy on the shoulder. It's a pain to develop discipline, a pain to build discipline, but it's not. It's nervous system capacity. It's something we have, but as any nervous system network, when you want to change it, the brain makes you feel uncomfortable. So we feel it's a pain, we feel it's heavy, but it's not. And it's not about mental strength. Not being disciplined doesn't mean you are weak, and the other way around doesn't work either. So traders that say I lost discipline, no. I think I've said the exact same thing a couple of weeks ago when we had a question about somebody that shared that she's been disciplined for months and then she lost it. She literally said, I lost it.
Yeah.
And I answered this. I said, you lost access to your rules because your brain shut the gate. I didn't say this sentence, of course, but I said that she needed to remember the state she was in that allowed her to be this disciplined. Because right now she's just in the state that she believes she doesn't have discipline or she's not, but she is. It's just about perception, what you tell to yourself. So you don't push through reactivity, you damn regulate it, or
Hmm.
it wins. So it's
Yeah,
either you
it's kind of
or
it's kind of like when
yeah.
you go on a binge eating, because some people have a problem with that. They're like, "Oh, I'm on a diet. I'm on a diet," and they're so in they ingrain it into their brain that it's like they're on a diet. It's like you're not on a diet. You're changing your lifestyle. If I would say to myself, "Oh, I'm on a keto diet," it's not a diet. It's a nutritional choice. Like I don't restrict myself from stuff. I just change the stuff that I eat. So I won't eat processed foods very often. But some people go, "Oh, I was on a diet for like 2 months, and then this one weekend, I just completely lost control, and I was binge eating." And it's the same thing, right? It's where your perception of what you should be doing, you're unnecessarily adding more burden by over dramatizing what it is. It's like, "Oh, I have to be disciplined," and it becomes this big thing. And really, it's just habits. Like you train your energy pathways to work a certain way. And yes, it's very difficult. Like Jerome, you said just a minute ago, it's tough to change. But once you start practicing it deliberately, at some point it becomes like an automatic response. You effectively go on autopilot. However, for some people, that doesn't build in the same way for an entire year. I know that they say it's like a month to build a new habit, but it doesn't become autopilot until you've practiced it for a year, unfortunately. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to be very precise, it's 21 days to build a habit, and it's 90 days to integrate it into your lifestyle. But 90 days with daily integration. If you do
Yeah.
it once a week, yeah, it's gonna take a
Takes
year, if
longer.
not
Hmm.
years.
Yeah.
But technically, if we go into the scientific standpoint, yeah, it's 21 and 90. And I personally try to use it in trading and in my daily life, and it's very powerful. So what helps? Long exhales can help you release more oxygen than and more carbon dioxide, to be more precise, than usual, and that makes a physiological difference with the parasympathetic system activation system, and that helps you to not necessarily get more relaxed, but have a reduced ability to get triggered. So have posture resets as well when you find yourself like that, or not in a well position with a straight spine, with a calm breathing. When you identify your posture is not necessarily the best one, just reset it, and having
Hmm.
this awareness will help a lot. And internal narration, we spoke about it a lot. So yeah, just be careful about how you speak to yourself and what you tell to yourself. So identity, we speak about identity today and every day, of course. Identity trades faster than strategy. Think about an athlete or a musician. We often take these examples because they require brain power, like a lot of, like everything, of course. We could take surgeons example, but let's take athletes and music because it speaks to a lot of people, right? So an athlete and a musician, they train the foundation of their networks, right? There's over years skills and actions that get executed on autopilot, like you just explained, Coach Deeyana. So after 5 years, 10 years, 20, 30 years of practice, your brain starts to focus on different things than the rookie who just started and who's focusing on uh, on hitting well on his feet while he runs,
Hmm.
like things like that. And so the focus changes. So your identity will be your autopilot, right? So you've got your strategy, you've got your rules, but when you're on tilt, you're not trading them. Why? You're trading your identity. You're trading this under layer, okay? The part of you that says, I'm not good enough, or I need to prove I've got this. And most blown accounts aren't caused by setups or mistakes. They are
Yeah.
caused by someone trying to protect an identity. Oh, my cat bounced on my keyboard and hit 15 NQ during NFP news. I swear to God, it wasn't me.
Yeah, or the other one. Oops, I thought I was in micros, but then I ended up in minis, and I didn't do anything to change that. And I figured, well, let's see how it goes. It's like,
Exactly, and
no.
then it hit minus 1600. I was like, how
Yeah,
did this
yeah,
happen in a single second?
yeah.
So just accept it. Accept that you
Yeah.
tried and
Yeah,
it didn't work,
take
you know?
responsibility for
Exactly.
whatever has happened. You know, we saw people blaming Trump, blaming, like, to be honest, I spoke about this yesterday. I love the volatility, right? Volatility is something that makes, for me, things easier, right? Because I can stay on my swings longer. But people are absolutely petrified of extra volatility. I think it's great. But you know, I've been
Same.
around a while, right? So it's probably a different outlook. I can see how it would be scary, especially if you don't adjust your stop losses, right? So if you still try to use, you know, 10 points in NQ and expect that that's going to work in this sort of environment, you know, 10 points on NQ now versus 10 points last year, totally different thing. But if you don't recognize it, you're going to get whipped out, and then you start to think, oh no, what happened? You try again, you get stopped out again, and very quickly as well, which throws you off. And then any kind of focus that you had goes out the window if you don't get ahead of it. But if you're aware of that, and if you go, whoa, what is happening? This is new. You know, anytime something happens that you don't expect, you're not supposed to just react and plow into another trade. You're supposed to pause because it's now a challenging situation. This is how I respond to events that I didn't expect. It's like Trump opens his mouth and you're like, whoa, tape bomb. But I don't go, oh, I need another trade. That is not my default reaction. My default reaction is like, hands off, let me see what's going on. This feels newsy. And then I go and, you know, reevaluate, reassess, so I don't chase things and I don't react to unknown events if I'm expecting it. You know, if it's like NFP on Friday or, you know, FOMC, you can prepare yourself. But if you're not prepared and it's just a random piece of news that falls out of nowhere, that can throw a lot of people off. But we have to train ourselves to not react, but in fact to slow down, pause off the mouse, right? And reevaluate, not just jump into another trade, because that's where disasters happen.
Exactly. Preach for that. And that's the next slide. The market has no
Oh,
memory, but your nervous system
the
does.
system does.
So
Yeah.
you think you're trading today's chart, but you're not. You're trading what yesterday felt like or the day before. So that loss you didn't process still in your jaw, or that win you didn't neutralize still in your breath or your stomach. If you didn't reset overnight, you're already halfway tilted. When an athlete finishes a competition, do you think they go celebrate instantly? No. They have a post performance recovery protocol, right? And they need to cleanse themselves before going forward. And it's the same in trading. So start your session like an athlete, neutral body, unwound mind, and calm and slow breathing. You know, it's simple said like that. But if your intention is to aim this, you will achieve great things internally. So I usually say self-talk is software, but most of it is malware. So
Malware.
if you tell
Yeah.
yourself, I suck, I missed it, why am I like this? You'd never say it to a friend, right? Would you? But you say it to yourself while risking money.
Interestingly, I know people who are seeking friendships with really toxic individuals that do say things like that to them. I was a little bit shocked because I'm somebody who protects my spiritual environment, for the lack of a better word, quite fiercely. And that's probably because I had a dad who was famous in Yugoslavia, so you know you naturally kind of learn to be that way. But I actually had a friend who had another person in her life, and she was saying that she considered that person her best friend, but she was saying horrible things to her all the time. She was like, oh, you're wearing makeup today, are you? Well, you're trying to be pretty or something. It's like, and she's a very pretty girl. And I said to her, I was like, why are you letting this person talk to you this way? And she said, oh, no, 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 it's not like that. She had all of these excuses. So I don't know whether it was like her thinking that she doesn't deserve any better friends than those kind of quasi friends. But like, why would we do that? And do we do something similar in trading where we actively seek out destructive environments in order to reinforce the bad feelings and thoughts about ourselves? It's kind of an interesting thing for me.
It's very interesting. Thanks for sharing that. Uh, there's many multiple points, psychological standpoints here in this example, but the main of it is psychologically people like to be critics because we speak about them and we are on their side. We don't point them with the finger, but rather we embrace them and are like we sympathize with them. But that's why people who lack either social attention or compassion, they instinctively seek for attention and compassion. And that comes through being a critic, because that's a channel of communicating it. Most of the time,
Right.
I'm not generalizing, but that's what come up to my mind. So in love, for example, in relationships, um, we often hear about people getting hooked in toxic relationships, and we think, why do we just don't leave, right? It's easy to leave, right? Of course, it's easier said than done. But why do we stay in these toxic relationships? Because they are hooked with the emotional meaning of it. Like for them, love has to be with toxicity. And so without this toxicity, it's not love for them. And we use this concept in therapy as well. And patients express that. They say that for me, toxicity is part of love. I mean, if you are nice, if, I'm taking a general example. A lady has a nice guy, well guy, but her previous boyfriend was a very toxic guy. It lasted years, and she broke up with him, but with the help of people, because she couldn't and wouldn't be able to break up. Uh, Years later, she met this very nice guy, director of a company, a very nice salary, very nice family, clean guy, let's say. But she's not with it, she's not in tune with it, because she's getting bored with it. It's boring for her because she was used with another thing that was so much intense emotionally that the brain creates a memory of it, an emotional memory. So
So
basically
does
when
the
you have
brain
another,
crave that? That
I
like
mean, it's the situation creates the memory in the brain.
interesting.
It's
So
the
do we do the
experience,
same
the
thing in
experience.
trading then? Do we do the same thing in
Exactly,
trading?
exactly.
Yeah.
The experience
Interesting.
shapes what's happening in our brains. But if when you're in the relationship, if you perceive it as okay, I'm weak and I'm gonna be a victim of this relationship, uh, then you're gonna live this every day, every day, every day, and it's gonna be part of your identity. But let's say you end up with somebody who is always yelling at you, always being angry, and you don't accept it, then you don't let it part of your identity. So the experience is the same, the outcome is different. And the more you get used to a pattern, to a situation, the more it becomes a structure in the brain. So nobody likes to be yelled at. Nobody likes
Yeah.
to be hit or whatever bad thing, right? But some people are afraid. Fear is something else. But some people just accept it. I have one of my best friend actually. They don't have like the most beautiful relationship, but they have what I would objectively call a sort of toxic relationship. But they both love it, and they would both tell you that
Okay.
they need this toxicity. And I'm like, no, but you believe you do. You know the thing. So it's
Yeah.
very interesting to watch them like yell at each other, and it's fight me and love me, and it's very interesting on a psychological standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Every time I had any sort of attention in my relationship, it was extremely uncomfortable, and I just can't be like that. Like I'm pretty boring as a person, I think. I'm pretty calm. And actually, at one point, trading changed my personality to a degree because I used to be a lot more explosive when I was younger. Now, I've been with my husband for 20 years, and, we've been through all sorts of stuff together. And when he met me, I was a musician, I was young, I was 24. And, we were like, oh, yeah, this is all great. But then obviously life started happening and we did pretty well throughout it. But then we had this tension time when things were a bit difficult. We were changing, both of us were changing jobs, and it was a tense time, and we did argue quite a bit. But then after that was all done, we kind of went back to ourselves. But what's happened to me in the space from when I started trading to now is that I became so non-reactive to things that I should be reacting to. Now, there's things that make me anxious, but they're generally big things. Like right now, we were talking before we went online, that I was very anxious about this house sale, because of the structure that the UK has, and until you sign contracts, people can walk away. So, like, oh my God, is it happening? What's going on? It's just like, come on already. So that's caused me anxiety, right? But not anxiety that's like so crippling that I can't do anything in life. It was just like, it's a bit annoying, right? But if I was younger, if I look at how I would be, when I was 30 or 32, I was a very different person. And everything was, inflated emotionally to, for me having a short fuse and being annoyed with things. And now it takes so much to annoy me, to the point that my husband is actually annoyed by the fact that I find it hard to be annoyed. It's very odd. And he had a couple of moments going, come on, react, do something. And I'm just like, no, I'm breathing through it. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And he was like, you're so annoying. And I was like, what do you want me to do?
Amazing. I
Sorry.
experienced the same thing. Oh, you're
Yeah.
always meditating, always breathing,
Yeah.
like leave me. I'm like, why?
Just
So
react, do
funny.
something, throw a chair or something, And we're all just like, no, we're zen. It's all good. It's so funny.
Very interesting. Yeah, we spoke about how experienced traders have a bigger tolerance to adverse reactivity in life, because the market slaps us enough, and life events becomes irrelevant next to the market for me. I mean, things
Yeah.
happening in life are so less relevant compared to the pain I get in front of the chart. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
whatever.
it's like you can't hurt me. I trade NQ kind of meme,
Exactly.
It's that sort of a moment. All right, we have a couple of questions here. Crazy RC wants to know, Jerome, how to reset your yesterday's trading day to not stay in this half tilt?
We went through it, but yeah, we will go back to it. You will have the slide, so you'll have the whole protocol. But basically, after the day you tilt it, so the day it's happening, you need to journal, reflect, so emotional journal, reflect and learn about what happened during the day. So doing this mental reflection, this rethinking about what happened. What happened is not, oh, I lost a trade, I put 10 NQs and I lost. No, that's not what happened. You need to get in more depth, in more details about what happened, and what we shared on the slides could help you. So basically, you do the reflection during the day it occurs, and you learn about it. And the next day, you have a daily process, so a pre-trade routine, in-trade sort of routine or checklist, and post-trade, post-day, post-closure routine as well. But before getting into your trade, if the day after you tilted, you journal the day, you learn, you reflected, you start the next day. If you don't have a pre-trade routine, you will most likely reproduce the emotion from yesterday, because you will have done half the work. So you did the work needed the day before, but the day after there's another work to do. So do you think athletes would just like go to competitions? No, they warm up, they do something before. They don't drain themselves, but they warm up like musicians. They practice
Yeah.
a bit of symphonies, things like. They don't like just sit and okay, 3, 2, 1, let's
Yeah,
go.
let's
No,
go. Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
So you don't just open up your chart and just hit the button, right? So
Which is what most people do. Yeah, I would like to add to that. That's beautiful. Thank you, Jerome. I would just like to add that when it comes to journaling your emotions, I would like to go like really deep into at what point did you start tilting? And what caused it? Was it a couple of losses? Was it the speed of price action that kind of threw you off? It's like, oh my God, what happened? Was it maybe making a mistake? Because remember, we were talking about error related negativity. We mentioned that, I think it was in the last session on Neuro Wednesdays, where once you make a mistake, your brain goes into this electrical impulse as a result, and it happens much quicker than you can calm yourself, because it's like 140 milliseconds from the slides, if I'm remembering correctly. And if you're not aware of it, you just kind of let it take over and then you go along with it. But if you, again, it's self-awareness is the first step. What's causing the tilt? What is the actual emotion? And what was the price action that led to it? You have somebody like Jared Tendler, who is not he's not necessarily into neuroscience, but he works with athletes and with traders who have had this issue. So he has this ABC game that is not necessarily just what the chart looks like, but very much focused on what causes you to tilt. So for example, for me, it's the market that's not doing anything. So if I enter a trade and I spend the next 90 minutes watching it going 5 ticks up, 5 tick down, 5 ticks up, that annoys the hell out of me, but I'm aware of it. So when I see that, I recognize the price action that causes me to tilt, and therefore I will get ahead of it by just going, this is nonsense, I'm closing this and walking away. So you don't just let your frustrations carry on. But some people have different mental triggers. So I know that some folk got stopped out very quickly because of the volatility increase, and then they went on a complete car crash moment of trading and derailed all of their accounts. Why? Because the price action got faster. So for them, that would be the trigger. High volatility, getting stopped out too quickly. So maybe reduce size, increase stops, to give yourself time to react better when things don't go well. I'm really against people lowering their stops in high volatility. That's like, to me, the silliest thing you can do. And the easiest way to expose yourself to tilts is to not work with the volatility, but just go, oh yeah, I'm just going to keep doing what I was doing 5 months ago when we, had completely different markets. But getting to that cause of how did it start and what happened in the markets prior, that will help immensely. Like once you're aware of it, you can go, hold on, I have seen this before. So your brain learns, right? It's an experience that you can base your future decisions on. So you go, last time this happened, I tilted. So now I'm seeing the same thing. Yes, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I got stopped out. But let's not allow it to continue, whatever happened last time, right? So I'm not going to do the same actions that led me to lose the account. I'm now going to stop myself, breathe through it, go walk, and wait for better market conditions. So maybe learn, maybe go into observation mode. Just sit there and watch what happens. Don't click buttons,
thank you very much. Exactly. So as we said last week, ERN, error-related negativity, is part. It's when your brain emits a neural signal when it detects a mistake, often before we consciously realize it. So it's the brain saying there is a mistake before we consciously realize it. So it happens in the ACC, anterior cingulate cortex, and it's the part of the brain responsible for monitoring conflicts and evaluating performance. So it's like Coach Deeyana said, a built-in error radar that fires within like 50, 100 milliseconds after you do something wrong. So before we are fully aware of it. So it explains a lot in execution psychology, like Coach Deeyana perfectly stated. So first, your body knows before your mind, like we explained. You trade from a state, not logic. You click a revenge trade, And even before the candle moves, your system goes, that wasn't aligned. That instant regret, the instant regret you get, that's ERN. That's um, error-related negativity. Sorry. So ERN is tied to high performance awareness. It's connected. And studies show that elite performers like surgeons, athletes, or chess players or musicians, they often have stronger ERN signals because they catch errors faster and self-correct earlier. And this is exactly what Deeyana stated. But it can also become punishment. How? Traders with high ERN and high shame sensitivity. These traders, they don't just catch mistakes. They will fall under them. They will collapse under them. It becomes, I'm a failure instead of that was misaligned, for example. Like the failure is not the act of clicking. The failure is yourself. I am a failure. It's not I did a mistake. It's I am a failure. See the difference? And so that's when it can become tricky. So if you find yourself when you click a trade and literally as your finger comes off, you already know it wasn't clean, that's not intuition. That's your brain's error detection system, the ERN. It's fast, silent, but it tells you this wasn't right before the market even acts. So the question, of course, is what do you do with that signal? So Coach Deeyana perfectly answered this. The best traders, they listen to it. And by listening to it, they avoid collapsing under it. So they go, okay, that wasn't the line, for example. What's my next best move? Sorry. And they don't say, I'm such an idiot, or let me fix it fast. Usually when we make a mistake, when you put 1 mini instead of 1 micro, you want to make a mistake. Your ERN flashes and tells you did a mistake. That's a mistake. So what do you want to do? You want to fix the mistake. But the real work is not avoiding the mistake. It's building a nervous system and self-talk loop that can hear the ERN without self-sabotage. So
so even when the mistake happens, you can just go, whoops, close the trade and just go, okay, well, it is what it is. Let's carry on.
Exactly. Technically, yeah. So if we had to give like 5 steps, we would say like first step, awareness, like notice the instant regret, that signal, Then name it out loud. That was misaligned. Say this sentence. Then don't follow it with a story. No shame, no fix it trade. Don't try to fix it.
Yeah.
Fourth step, inhale deeply, exhale slowly. So you don't follow it with a story, and you mark a pause, a stop, and then you journal. Fifth step, you journal. So notice the regret, awareness, name it, don't follow it, don't create a story after that. Pause, breathe, and journal. What did I sense before the click? What can I use next time? And I guess like for athletes, musicians, surgeons, high performing any activity, the difference between elite execution and emotional reactivity, it's not the number of errors, it's how fast and clean you course correct after making one. Remember,
Very well
stress is
put.
part of human beings. We are all stressed. We are not super science or machines. We deal with this every single day.
Yeah, when I was still an active musician, I obviously did a lot of gigs and stuff, but we didn't like, you sometimes make a mistake, right? You might, miss a note, or you might get the chord wrong, but you don't just stop and just go, oh, no, it's all going wrong. You just got to go along with it. And that kind of approach to show must go on, you effectively just almost like you erase it in your brain as if it didn't happen, but it has to be so quick. Like it takes a long time to develop that, even as a musician, right? You make a mistake and then you just pick up where you left off as if it didn't, as if it didn't happen. It's a transferable skill to trading. I'm not surprised that I see many musicians going into this. So we've got
Exactly,
trading.
completely.
Yeah. So it's not that we won't make a mistake, like we will. There will be mistakes. Nobody's perfect. We're not robots. It's exactly how Jerome put it. It's how quickly you course correct after the mistake.
Do you think when a surgeon has a surgical complication, not necessarily a mistake, but let's say an arteria like popped and it's blooding everywhere, do you think we're like, oh, this is a mistake? And no, we're like, quick, 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 fast, sharp, course
Yeah,
correct, in an
yeah,
instant. Why? How? Because they trained for that. It's a training, it's a repetition, right? That's why to be a surgeon, you have a whole uh, structured training of 5 to 10 years, if not more, because you gotta train that. You gotta train
yeah.
it. It's a whole
And you have to
process.
train under pressure. So to put a parallel with trading, some people go into a practice account and they're like, "Oh, I'm an amazing trader." It's like it's great, but I've drawn the parallel between real warlike conditions and you going to play paintball with some friends. It's not going to be the same, right? And I feel that that's exactly the same thing that people are doing in the practice account. There's no real risk, there's no real consequence, and your brain just doesn't perceive it the same way. And yet, the amount of people who are like, "Oh, let's go into a practice account and trade 15 NQs. I'm an amazing trader." It's like, no, you're not. It's like if you can't replicate that under high pressure environments, like being a surgeon and something going wrong, and you having the skills to effectively correct whatever is going on under pressure, it's not the same thing at all. So, I really hated when people are like, "Yeah, I made 40 grand in practice account." And I'm like, "Oh, slow clap, well done," rolls eyes.
Exactly. Exactly this. And
Yeah.
we spoke about tilt. Thinking while tilted is like trying to fix a flat tire while driving
I
at
love that.
50 mph or 80.
Yeah.
So the brain needs structure when the mind is chaotic. So
I love
it's
that.
physiologically impossible. And
Yeah.
so a sequence you can build is name it, pause it, reset it. Like we said, like I'm in frustration, for example. Pause it, you step back from the screen and you make a long exhale, you sit down fresh. And this can become your tilt recovery loop. But yeah, I like the metaphor as well. Did you like it?
That's great. All right, Coach Jay said something similar about learning to trade as a newbie on NQ, and he said it's kind of trying to learn how to ride a bike on a Formula One track.
Yeah, very hard.
And people
Exactly.
are like, "Will," and you're like, "Oh my God, I can't keep balance."
Exactly. Bro. So true. So true. And yeah, we often say that every trade has two outcomes, P&L and wiring. So the money matters, of course, that's why we trade. But what matters more is what that trade does to your brain. And that's why we have these sessions. So did it reinforce clarity? Did it reinforce impulsivity? Did it reinforce patience, sorry? Because every trade either builds discipline or erodes it. You either uh, approach a step further to your goal or a step back. So the real win is the trade that costs you nothing emotionally. You will often find pro traders, and I try to do this in my practice, but we always share this to celebrate PNL behaviors. Sorry, not PNLs. Celebrate what you did well. Celebrate your process. Uh, the fact that you respected your rules, whether the trade is green or red. You can, for instance, I can personally win a trade but be mad about the trade I took because I didn't respect a rule afterwards, or I traded from a state I wouldn't have liked to trade from, etc. So PNL doesn't mean green. Green PNL doesn't necessarily mean W for the day as discipline,
Yeah.
and vice versa. So you don't need to feel better. That's a myth, unpopular opinion. I think you don't need to feel better. You need to feel different. So
Yeah.
traders keep trying to calm down. I need to calm down. I want to put 15 NQ. Why? I need to calm down. That calm isn't always available, right? It's not magic. It's
Yeah.
what's available is state shift. Even if it's just 2% better than the one you're in, it's shifting states. So instead of asking yourself, okay, Jerome and Dee are saying we need to get centered, but how do I get centered? Ask yourself, what can I do to move closer to clarity? It's a difference. So you can, for example, change posture. We said you can stand up. You can stretch your arms for 30 seconds. You can walk to the door and back. You can speak your state out loud. I am in tilt because I lost a trade. You're alone. You're not crazy, but you say it. You will have a shift. Breathe differently. If you don't change the loop will define you. And boredom is the ultimate test of trading identity for me. So there's no trade, and we spoke about that, Coach Deeyana. There's no trade. The setup isn't there. The market is sideways. You've watched the screen for 3 hours. Nothing is happening. That is exactly when the danger begins, because boredom isn't empty. It's noisy. It says, oh, maybe
Very
I should
true.
try this. Or
Yeah.
could this be a new setup?
See, so to apply some of my own experience. So I was a crude oil trader pretty heavily for 12 years. And during the 12 years, we had 400 to 500 ticks available on most days. So it's like $4 to $5 on crude oil. And even when you were wrong, it would show you were wrong quickly. And then if you would readjust and reassess, you would enter another trade and it would reward you with like 70 to 100 ticks very quickly, right? And that changed last year. So after 12 years of doing one thing, doing crude oil and knowing that it can drag me out of holes, we got to a point where election year, it just died. It just died. It was like nothing. Like Comex's second part of the session was literally like 35 ticks. So 0.3 bucks. I mean, nothing. And my stops were like 35 ticks, right? So I would need at least 70 ticks in as a follow through to actually make my trading work. So I was like, what is going on? And there were times when I would look at my platform and I'm like, is the internet on? It was so slow. And that's my tilt and it terrifies me because when nothing is moving, I would need to turn into more of a scalper. And I don't like that. It's like too much work for me. I'm a bit of a lazy trader. I like to ride trends and I'm very selective to find those trends. So I don't have a problem waiting, but I do have a problem if I'm thinking, yeah, let's enter a trade and then nothing happens. It's why I avoid trading in rollover as well, for the same reason. Price action is lackluster. The volume is split between the old contract and the new contract. Now, equities traders don't have a problem with that because equities roll every 3 months. My products roll nearly every single month. So you have maybe good 3 weeks of price action and then the rollover starts and it's just hell on earth. But I don't get involved in that. And in fact, I've stopped trading crude oil for the most part. I do trade RBOB, which is a much faster version of crude oil, because it's gasoline futures, right? They're very, very connected. But for some reason, gasoline continues to have 350, 400, 500, 600 ticks available, whereas crude oil is still on most days 100 ticks, 72, 120. It's like, what's happened to it? So it's not like once you get there, you will never tilt. It's recognizing that maybe the market state has changed and now it's causing you to tilt. I think that we can apply that in the other extreme in equities, where we have increased volatility and people who have been doing really well suddenly are not doing well. But I've also seen people who have not done well in the normal volatility environment and now they're doing well, right? And then this week, problem begins when you don't have a million ticks available in a day on NQ. And now they're like, oh, what's happened to my profitability? Well, did you adjust for smaller stops now? Because now you don't need to use a million tick stop. You can go back to, maybe half that. because volatility is less. Like, do you have a way to measure that to again get ahead of the market state so that it doesn't derail your emotions and your state? Does that make sense?
Completely, yeah. Thank you. Exactly. You added so much more elements that I didn't put on the slide, but boredom is your brain telling you it wants dopamine, and you
Yeah.
highlighted it, not data. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, I haven't taken a trade today. I think this is it. And if you can sit through boredom without inventing action, you're 90% of the way there, really. And not trading is a trade. It just doesn't pay you in dollars. It pays you in identity. So every time you don't take the bad setup or even the right one, just choosing not to take it, you are reinforcing the disciplined version of you. It's the most profitable non-event of your session, guys. The most profitable non-event of your session. And as
But
Hogue says, what does
I,
not happen is as important as what does.
Hogue also has another one. Sitting on the sidelines is also a position.
Exactly, true. Beautiful one. And celebrate the days you don't trade as positive performance days. They are process wins as well, you know? It's also a win for having sat in front of the screen and telling yourself, okay, this is happening, and we're gonna go through it. So the mistake wasn't the click; it was what happened between trades. So most traders they aren't losing to the market most of the time. They're losing to themselves between trades. So that could be the over analysis, that could be the revenge narrative, that could be the identity spin out as well. So believe it or not, the truth is the market didn't make you lose. Market is the market, whether you click or not. You just couldn't be alone with yourself without trying to fix something. We are human beings. We always want to fix things. The real battle isn't in the candle, it's in the space after. So train this space like a monk trains silence. And if you don't know how a monk trains silence, then just follow the slides. No, just kidding. But yeah, the thing is, we don't see the market. We often speak about perception and say that what we see is the perception of our brain. It's not what we see. It's the perception of the interpretation of what we see, right? So we don't see
Yeah.
the market. We see our pattern making brain. And perception is not neutral. So you think you're seeing clean price action, but your brain is not a camera. Your brain is a pattern machine. Forget about trading. Brain loves pattern. Brain loves identifying patterns. And under pressure, you spoke about pressure, Coach Deeyana, it will force meaning where none exists. If you
Very
understand
true.
this, you understand a huge weakness of human being. Under pressure, the brain will force meaning where none exists. In relationships, in work, in daily events, in trading, in sports, in music, in many, many other areas. So this is why, in my humble opinion, why traders, they see a setup in places it doesn't exist. Why they overfit a level. Oh, this is the resistance level, I'm telling you. Why they find logic for revenge. You're not fighting the market. You're fighting your, what we call the perceptual bias generator, the PBG, perceptual bias generator. That's what you're fighting, PIM, perception, intention, manner of act. Most charts are ambiguous, right? It's a whole load of data, and brain hates ambiguity, so it invents clarity. And the goal is not to have a perfect vision because you don't know when it is. It's to have a trained detachment from that. Once you understand that, you can understand when you are in the state you analyze well, and when you are in the state you are a victim of your brain. So this is a bit complex, but this is very important to understand. And I've often found people, and myself, of course, watching the market and be like, oh yeah, this is going to happen. And blah, blah. And then 5 minutes later, I'm like, why did I think that? First, it didn't happen. And second, what happened? So I think that. So what do I do, for example, to reset my perception? Very quick exercise. You open a random chart with zero prep, whatever you want, an asset you never even thought about it. You didn't even know it existed, for example. You set a timer for 60 seconds. You stare at it without thinking of direction. You just label what is. Oh, higher high, lower low, support, volume spike, whatever you want. No narrative. Just neutral labels. Observation. This will rewire the way you look at a chart on a punctual time. So over time, it will disentangle emotion from perception, and it will train you to wait for real signal, not just what we could call psychological completion. And it will train your brain to have a better ability to trust your analysis. How do you trust what you're seeing? Is it your brain tricking you? Is it the emotion telling you? For example, I can clearly remember when I lose trades, my ability to read the charts is hindered. I make more mistakes when I used to lose, sorry, because I couldn't do this. And then I tried to understand what was happening in my brain. Why would I have heat in my head and not be able to read the chart? I long, it's going down. I go short, it's going up. What am I doing wrong? Oh, I'm just clicking. That's what I'm doing wrong. I
Or
need to
usually
step
that's a
back.
range day. I say
Yeah,
to people,
also
if
that.
you are getting involved in the middle of a range with the hope that it's going to keep going higher because you didn't necessarily catch that it's a range day, and you go long, it goes against you. Then you flip, you go short, it also goes against you. And you're like, what's going on? And at that point, I say to everybody, it's very likely you're in a range. So reassess
True.
and let's try and get away from that middle of the middle to the extreme. So that, this is where market profile got me objectivity, because I don't necessarily, I don't approach the day with any sort of a bias. I'm just like, okay, it is what it is. And there are days when I'm super objective. And obviously there are contextual days where I'm a little bit biased, like today on copper, right? Purely because of what's happened prior. But generally, when I look at the charts, the initial balance, open sentiment in relation to previous day's value, and wherever we start to extend the first hour of trading range, that gives me objectivity. Because there's no like, oh, it's going to go this way. No, it has gone that way. We extended, let's say, downwards. And now you have two options. It either fails the auction and goes back up, or it continues. But how do we look at that? I look at it by whether we're closing below value, for example, or back inside it. So there's no ambiguity. It's like, yeah, okay, sometimes there is ambiguity because they close right on the edge, and it's like, really? And then you have to take context from something else. So, I wish trading was like super simple that way. But for the most part, on most days, I will use the TPO profile to give me clarity. And that's why I'm like, yeah, it's a range. It's like, how do you know it's a range? Because we extended both sides and there's no single prints anywhere. It's like, it's building structure. It's building a distribution curve that is very evenly distributed. And whatever happens until that state changes, I will keep trying for, let's say, a range-bound day. So, it really does keep you away from trouble when you use it to its full potential. And I think most people don't use the profile in the correct way. They're just like, oh, I'm looking at the developing value. It's moving. It's like, it takes 30 minutes to recalculate value. And I know this because we've created, profile indicators, and I know how they're working underneath the hood, right? And I have a problem with that because I know that it's going to be a lagging thing. It's like, oh yeah, value will move, but it won't, but it takes a long time. By the time that happens, your opportunity has been and gone, right? So you need something else. And to me, looking at the real-time TPO profile and whether we have single prints or not has always been a slightly better way to look at the day. So just wanted to throw in the technical side of things.
Yeah, thank you very much. But uh, if I am objective, if I forget about all the technical things you said, because some people don't even know these exist, you are being 100% neutral.
Yeah.
You are being neutral. You are considering both sides of events, both sides of scenarios. You are not trying to fix, you are not trying to find a narrative that is built on a bias. You are
No.
just following what your training led you to.
Yeah, I
So
actually
yeah,
teach people to have 3 or 4 scenarios on the day that account for both sides, just to avoid that bias. Because if you see something that's going up, up, and up, okay, that's fine. But this is intraday trading. You can always find a mispriced opportunity where we might go into a pullback, and there are ways to figure that out. Obviously, not if we are in a zombie rally. So again, context is king. But let's say something that is a little bit more double sided, like, I would say that equities at this point, they're pretty double sided. They're a little bit undecided whether they're going up or down, right? And then we end up in a range. So for me, in equities, these days it's good to have like 3 or 4 scenarios. I like to have 2 for longs, 2 for shorts. And yes, not all of them will appear, but at least you will have a way to exclude the ones that are less likely on the day. Obviously, it takes data, it takes experience, but if you work with it, eventually your experience will catch up to whatever you're trying to achieve in your head, effectively, to stay objective.
exactly. Thank you very much. So you can rewrite the past if you
Yeah.
stop reacting from it. That's we call memory reconsolidation and emotional weight. So did you ever feel like one bad session from 6 months ago still haunts you? Or like every time a similar setup appears, you tense up without knowing why? That's not your trading history. That's your nervous system's emotional archive. So the brain stores emotional pain with tags. We've been through it. This hurt. This cost me. Never again, ever. But science says something wild and, in my humble opinion, very interesting. In therapy, we use it as well. So if you re-access a memory while in a calm state and mismatch its outcome, you can rewrite its weight. If
So
you have
what do you
one
mean when you
sentence to
say
write down,
miss?
sorry,
So I don't understand what mismatch its
we're gonna
outcome
go we're
means.
gonna
Do
go
you
through it
change? Okay,
right
okay,
after.
okay,
but
okay.
but you can use this sentence in therapy as well, for mental health or uh, complementary therapies. So I will go through mismatch the outcome here, okay? Later. Don't think I
Okay,
forgot you. So
okay, okay. I'll be
you
patient.
thank you. You're not ignoring the past. You are rewiring your relationship to it. Okay. So again, this concept work. We're not doing therapy sessions, so we don't do consultations here. We speak about trading, but most of these psychological, neurological concepts you can apply it for mental health, which is my field at least. So you don't have to get over the big losses. You have to re-see them while safe and reassign them new meaning, new perception. And this is exactly how trauma entangles, even in trading. So, 5 steps: think of a past painful trade, recreate the moment, the setup, the emotion, the mistake. Now, shift. What's the shift? You breathe slowly, you focus on your breathing, you imagine that version of you posing, not trading, okay? You inhale, you visualize the opposite outcome of whatever the past painful trade was. You step back, you skip the trade, and you protect yourself. Okay, you don't trade, but this is an action, right? You exhale and you say to yourself, I see it, I hold it, but I don't carry it forward. And if you use these 5 steps for whatever hurt you in the past, forget about trading. Trust me, this can be very powerful. And this can help you with a real trauma, a trauma. A trauma is something very precise in definition. So you have to like, oh, yesterday I lost a trade, I'm gonna pick this event. No, this is not a trauma. Like a trauma is something that first you cannot accept and you won't accept, and second, it's months after, years after, still inside of you, still uh, reminiscing the same pain, the same feelings, the same emotions, and you don't agree with it. You like, it's still here, you can't swallow it. The pill is too big to swallow. So this will help to swallow it.
So there's the EMDR therapies, and this is kind of what they're trying to do, because you mentioned feeling safe, and the lateral eye movement, for some weird reason, again, our brains are so amazing, it makes people feel safe while moving your eyes left and right. So I do say to people, if you have some big trauma, if you've had one big blow up day that's still with you, you need to deal with it. And I do point them in the direction of EMDR therapy for this. Because, if we carry the trauma, that's the space you're trading from. You're not trading from objectivity. You're trading from, oh my God, I can never do that again. And which, at some point, if you've removed your stop and that's what caused the blow up, yeah, obviously you shouldn't be ever doing that, right? You always have to have an exit. But if the result of blowing up via that mistake is caused you trauma, and now you can't properly trade, or you're afraid to click the button, or you're constantly doubting yourself, that needs to change, because you're not going to move forward until you sort that out. And EMDR has been super quick for me, at least back in the day, to actually get over that. Because I had one trauma from when, you have nobody else to blame. You can't blame the market. It was you who was clicking the button. And it is a bitter pill to swallow, right? You're like, oh my God. And then you come back to trade. And I had, this was a long time ago, by the way. It was like 15 years ago. Maybe even longer, 16 years at this point. So I came back to trade, and my hand, like I was trying to click a mouse, and my hand was literally like shaking over it. I just couldn't do it. And I thought to myself, I need therapy. Like, seriously, like this is just ridiculous. I need to get out of this. So I did start to do weightlifting, but I also did EMDR therapy. On the advice of a therapist that I was saying then. And it helped. It was so quick. I think I took like 3 sessions, and it was like the weight was lifted. I'm like, oh, okay, I can finally trade again. Christ. What do you think about EMDR therapy? Have you used that at all?
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So we mentioned EMDR therapy previously in other sessions. So it's a specific complementary type of therapy, which requires a specific training, which is not that complex, but you got to do the training. I didn't do it, but I know people who did. It's a very interesting one, and it's very much and well correlated with any mental practices such as mindfulness or meditation that we practice, MBCT, MBSR programs, which are mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, mainly for depression, and mindfulness-based stress reduction programs. So I don't use nor practice EMDR personally or professionally, yet I know it's very powerful. And just to come back to your commentary about the eye movement and the physiological effect on the brain, there's a lot of that's why body posture is powerful as well in trading. Like a lot of physical movements will generate physiological results. And for example, closing your eyes shut down 80 to 90% of the stimuli our brain gets, and that makes the occipital cortex shut down, most of it, and that allows your brain to have more focus on other areas. That's why, for example, when we make a practice, we invite people to close their eyes. You don't have to, but it's to make your brain more focused. And so moving your eyes left and right create this safe environment to the brain physiologically. It's a bit weird, but yeah, it's what happens.
Yeah, it's fascinating though. Yeah. Who knew?
So exactly. So the thing is, you cannot delete the memory. People think things are magic. People think meditation is stopping your brain, your thinking, emptying your brain, blah blah blah, whatever. No, people think things that are false assumptions, and being able to delete a memory is one of them. So you can change its emotional tag and the wiring through this memory, and that is the key. And again, I emphasize this is completely applicable to anything but trading. So every time you recall a memory, especially one charged with emotion, for instance, in trading, like a bad trade or a session you regret, your brain just doesn't just replay it like a video. If you remember, and if you've been a student of us, the brain treats imagination like reality. So instead, it reactivates the memory, and during that window, it becomes temporarily malleable. And this is what we call, ladies and gentlemen, the reconsolidation window. It's a very, very short period when a recalled memory is unlocked, and your brain, during this very short window, is open, believe it or not, is open to updating it based on new emotional input or meaning. But when the window is passed, it's not over. It's just you gotta reset the cycle. But this is exactly precisely the process. You need to recall it, and then there's the window, and then you take the shot of the window. That's your shot, that's your go-to, and that's how it operates. And if you miss it, you're gonna catch it another time.
That's fascinating. I've got to say, we're just biological machines, aren't we? That's
We
exactly what
are
we are.
completely.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Completely. So a past loss is not what haunts you. It's the emotional meaning your brain assigned to it. I'm not cut out for this. I'll never recover. I lost my whole account. I always mess it up. Uh, Missing one winning day for a payout, I always messed up. So even months later, when a similar setup appears, your body tightens. Not because the trade is bad, but because it's associated with threat. So you become an animal. Your brain is in survival mode. So you're not trading the chart, you're trading again your nervous system archive. So, what is mismatch the outcome? I know you were waiting for it. So, while you are re experiencing the memory, imagine responding differently. So, instead of the panic trade, visualize yourself breathing, for example. Some people might think, what is this guy? He's telling us to breathe and to think about emotions and blah, blah, blah. And you'll see later. So instead of the panic trade, visualize yourself breathing. Instead of revenge clicking, picture yourself stepping away. Instead of self criticism, I know you guys like to be critics. Imagine your future self saying, this is part of the work. Now the brain is doing two things: reactivating the old pattern, and not or, and seeing a non-matching outcome while in a safe state. So this dissonance, this incongruence signals your brain, this doesn't match the fear-based outcome I remember. Something's different, which means let's update the file. That is the window. But then the brain quickly is like, you will not like it. Just keep doing what we've been doing, right? But this is a very small window. So after this step, after this precise step, you need to be able to instantly anchor the new meaning. So to lock in the update, you need to reflect. That is why reflection is key. You need to reflect on what changed. For example, I can feel tension without reacting to it. Having tension, feeling tension is not bad. Reacting to it is bad. That mistake did not define me. My response afterward did. I am capable of change. This proves it. Are you able to say this exact sentence to yourself? I am capable of change. This proves it. Are you able to say this to yourself? The magic R's, the 4 R's, or recall plus regulation plus reframe, leads to rewire. Simple, yet extremely powerful. So it's the end, I think. Yeah, it's so then you have the skill of meta switching in real time. So what is meta switching? Is being able to step back from the voice you are hearing. In our daily life, we most of the time become the voice in our head, but in trading, most traders become the voice in their head. So they hear, you're messing this up, fix it now, don't miss this one, and they act from it automatically, like they want to
Mm.
fix things again. So the truth is, the moment you see yourself from the outside, awareness, you reclaim control. This is the art of meta switching, meta awareness. It's used in mindfulness, in psychology, in therapy. It's training the ability to narrate your own experience as it is happening. Reactivity lives in automatic thought loops. Meta awareness, meta switching, breaks the loop midstream. It activates the PFC, prefrontal cortex, and reduces limbic, so emotional brain intensity. So basically, when you feel the urge rising, try this. Say out loud, I'm watching myself lean forward. He's about to take a revenge trade. There's urgency in his breath. The act of describing yourself like you're watching a documentary changes the state. I know it's weird at first, I know, but it's one, if not the fastest tool for cutting emotional loops in real time without needing to think harder or have more efforts put in. Is this clear enough? Do you guys have any question about this path?
To me, it's perfectly clear. In fact, now that you've explained everything, we were taught to look outside of ourselves in the first firm that I was at, and they didn't go this deep into it, why it works, how it works. They just said, when you feel you're about to do something stupid, imagine you're looking at yourself from the outside. What do you see? So, they just kind of dumbed it down for us, right? Because we weren't neuroscientists or anything. But it worked, So whenever I was about to do a trade that maybe wasn't a part of my setup, I would be thinking, what do I look like from the outside? They even had mirrors, actually. They told us to kind of step away and look in the mirror, and then to see whether you can kind of reconnect with the real you rather than whatever you think you're about to do. And for some people it helped. To me, it was just like, yeah, it's me. What's going on here? But the act of imagining as if I'm looking at myself from the outside, am I tensing up? Am I kind of going into almost like a defensive sort of mode to like protect myself? That really had a big effect on me. And also being aware of what my breath is doing, whether I'm getting too locked into the chart, because that's all signs of fight or flight response kicking in, right? And for me, it would be my heart rate rising as well. So I had my own ways of dealing with it. But yeah, this is amazing to hear again after so many years, and to kind of remind myself what it is that I used to do in the beginning when there's Bury the Brain, when I was making making a lot of mistakes on a daily basis. So the bottom line is, it's not like the mistakes won't happen, it's how we behave afterwards and staying aware of our own selves from the outside. Effectively, there are ways to rewire yourself, and it always starts with the pause. Whatever you've done, just pause and then reevaluate, and use these techniques to try and rewire some of the bad habits, bad experiences that you've had in order to move forward. Is that fair to say?
Barry approves. No, yeah, completely,
Barry
completely
says
agree.
yes.
Barry says yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the end of the segment of today. So thank you very much again for the audience, for people, and to you, Coach Diana, for hosting us as always beautifully. Do we have time for a couple of Q&A, perhaps?
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
think so. Yeah, I think we have a few. Let's see. Let's go
How chat
through.
did like it? Does chat want to react? Did you like it today?
Yeah, they have
Thank
been
you for doing
posting along the way. I don't know whether you're looking at chat, but there's been quite a lot of
it. Not
positive
really.
comments.
Wonderful.
Okay, so Paul H says, great session as always. Coach Paul said CL is the market, it is the most traded assets. Given that we've seen a reduction in a daily range in CL, I've noticed the other markets are going nowhere very fast. So we do have NFP this week, Paul. I don't know whether, I mean, CL has just been in a weird state. I don't know why. I think Coach Paul is more like I know he swing trades, so I can see why he would think that crude oil is the place to be. But from an intraday perspective, CL is a very different animal now. And to me, it's a quiet one. So I don't like it anymore for intraday. We have done some swing trades on it. Mostly on the short side, a couple on the long side in the last 6 months, but not very often. It's like few and far between. So I don't know. Coach Paul obviously has a different style to me. Maybe he holds trades across a number of days. I know that he trades his own account as well. But yeah, to me, our Bob is much better for intraday specifically. It's faster. You finally get your move. You know, you don't have to sit there for 3 hours with nothing happening, which again, I said it's my personal tilt mode. Let's have a look at more questions. Just scrolling down. There was a couple. Caleb wants to know, Jerome, how can you make this behavior into a habit? I feel like we had this question already. It's so easy to forget to make the switch in your brain in the heat of trading.
Thank you for the question, Caleb. I don't know if you listened to the previous sessions, so I'm gonna just repeat what we said earlier today. A habit needs at least 21 days of repetitive practice. So whatever habit you want to build, you have this structure, 21 days of repetitive practice, and then to integrate this habit into your lifestyle, trading lifestyle, for instance, you need to practice this network you built during 3 weeks, roughly, during 3 months. So you said it perfectly. It's so easy to forget to make the switch in your brain in the heat of trading. So you got to cultivate and nurture the habit of making the difference, of thinking about it. If this comes through putting post-its in front of you in caps, then do it. If it means setting alerts, do it. If
An
it means
alarm.
like, yeah, whatever you would need to help you, just do it. Like the lockout feature, it's a feature that helped us to walk away. It helped me tremendously, and he still helped me every day, every single week. So whatever tool you can use to help you become more able to make this practice, to be able to pause, like Coach Deeyana said, to be able to be aware, to be able to breathe, to be able to stand up, to be able to stretch, you need to think about it. But how to think about it, you need to remind yourself. So either you remind yourself with different tools, either you train yourself. So every single day you wake up, you do your homework, you listen to Coach Deeyana and Dr. J, and you repeat the session. Perhaps you will need to hear it multiple times, but perhaps it will change your life beside trading. Uh, I'm not saying we discovered hot water. Uh, just saying we share valuable information that people must probably underestimate, and this information will not only help you in trading but also in day-to-day life. So
Absolutely.
cultivate this information and these practices and this habit. And if you feel it's too weird or uh, definitely not what you were expecting, then just don't do it. It's not for you, and it's all good.
Okay, Shay Hughes says, I always love connecting with this content. It's crucial for me to overcome these hurdles. You guys really put out excellent help for traders facing these challenges. That's why we're doing this, right? Thank you for that comment. It's
Exactly.
lovely.
Thank you.
Vital says, what is your advice trading 6E? I have no advice because I haven't traded 6E since 2016. I honestly, I'm over forex. I mean, I know that it's improved, but to me, it's still a bit slow. It's kind of like, ugh, you know. I can have a look at it at some point, just see whether there's some more opportunities these days. But for now, I can't provide anything because I literally haven't looked at that chart for years, like absolute years. Mohammed says, at Deeyana, I can relate to what you said about volatility and tilt. I stay disciplined for a few days, and then after some time it repeats. How can it be avoided? If it's the strategy part of things that's causing tilt, you need a systematic way to figure out what sort of a stop loss size and obviously your targets based on that you should be using, right? So some people use ATR for that. So let's say an average of 14 candles on a 5-minute chart. I have my own way of doing it. I take the average session range over a number of days, then I divide that. I look at the market structure. So it's about trading, experimenting, going back to review, seeing what caused the tilt, and seeing whether your stops were in the right place, whether your stops were the right size, because sometimes you're right on direction, but the market knocks you out and then goes your way. What does that tell you? That shouldn't be a tilt moment. It should be a data moment, a learning moment. Oh, maybe my stop wasn't wide enough, or my entry was too early, so therefore I, experienced a deeper drawdown than necessary. Is there any way that I can improve that? So go to the data. If you can. I know that not everybody is data driven, but I find huge comfort in data myself. I'm very systematic, I'm very methodical. I can't trade super discretionary. There's obviously discretion while I'm entering the trade, for sure, but everything else around it still needs to be a piece of the same puzzle in order for me to get involved, and that comes from data. Let's see if we have any more. Everybody wants slides, more slides, more slides.
Yeah, I
Slides
just sent
will
them
be-
to Bruno on Discord.
Okay, nice.
And so if Bruno wanna share them on Discord now, I think he mentioned the trading psychology channel. So if you guys are in Discord, you can check for the channel.
Yeah, so we've been putting the slides in the channel on Topstep Discord and Trading Psychology, which leads me nicely to post our Discord link. So go into Discord, Topstep Discord, and go into Trading Psychology, Trading-Psychology. That's the name of the channel, and they will be located there. Let's have a look. Caleb says, thank you for answering my questions. I tried to catch the sessions, but it's very early in the morning. Well, you can always rewatch them, and, there's Trading Psychology. If you tag me in there, maybe I can tell Jerome. Are you in Discord, Jerome? Are you in there at all?
I am, but nobody knows who I am.
Oh, right.
And I
Okay,
don't want
you're
people.
covert operations. Let's see. Hitting the like button makes you feel grateful, Nick G says. A feeling promoting
Thank
health and well-being. Thank you. Very
Thank you,
nice. Let's see. Ajaz had a funny comment here. Says, I know small wins compound, but when you see all these Twitter millionaires hitting 2 to 3K daily and 100K months, I think it adds to the pressure of having to be a higher achiever and leads to tilt. Ajaz, just remember, not everything you see on Twitter is real. A lot of these people who are making a ton of cash, they're actually sim farmers. So they're like, oh yeah, trade 20 accounts. But then you put them in one live account and they fall apart completely because they never trained their brain how to trade with size. So I'd be very careful comparing yourself to them. There are steps to take. I know that you've been with, because Ajaz is one of my market stalkers. We worked together back during COVID, was it? I think. And then obviously since then we've kept in touch through social media and stuff. But yeah, there are steps to progressing to very large amounts. You can't go from zero to hero. And people on Twitter usually love to post about their 100K, 200K months. You don't really see them posting about the months where they blew up completely. And those are usually much larger because you had to blow up all of the profits, right? You won't see those. Why? Because it's not good for their brand, But if you have 100K month, like there's someone, I'm not going to name any names, but we know in the industry there was someone who spent over 600,000 on combines and, evals in 1 year. And then they kind of got a massive payout. And I'm like, mate, you're still underwater though. because that's not covering the amount that you spent, like, things like that. So just take it with a pinch of salt and say, okay, that's nice for them, but also remember that comparison is a thief of joy. Yeah. So just you do you, don't focus on other people. Focus on your own journey, and you will get there much faster.
Yeah.
MRVN says, I have a losing streak since last Friday on my funded account. I hope I can break this losing streak ASAP.
Okay, MRVN, did you take a trade today? Sorry to interrupt you. Did you
No, no,
trade?
no, no.
Have you
Go
taken a
ahead.
trade yet today? MRVN. If not, you are lucky. If yes, you will wait before taking a trade tomorrow, and you will still be lucky. But we'll help you. Waiting for
Exactly.
your answer. But yeah, just to come back to your previous answer, trade with Ajaz. Thief is what we say, the comparison is the thief of joy, and there's a reason why we say that. So to be very honest and truthful with yourself, last year when I was in the moment I started to become profitable, I shut down Twitter and YouTube as well. I'm not telling people to shut down YouTube, but I shut down the moment Topstep used to put the high PNLs on the screen, because I really didn't want my mind to be affected by these numbers. I didn't want to know whoever made 1, 2, 5, 10K, because I want to be happy and satisfied with my $52. And I don't want to compare
Do you want to
myself.
know a secret, Jerome? I still switch that segment off. If I'm on,
Wow.
like live, I try to just switch off completely. Well, if I'm happen to be on fast markets at that time, but if I'm not, if I'm just in chat, I legit just don't look at it, and I literally skip that entire segment because it had the same effect on me. And back in like 18 months ago when we were starting all of this, we weren't doing that in the beginning, and then suddenly they started putting our numbers next to our names and stuff. And I will be honest, most of us freaked out because it's like suddenly you are so, and people were telling us trade bigger, trade bigger. We didn't have the house account then, so we were like being forced by it's going to be more interesting, trade bigger. And you're like, but the account is not large enough to trade 3 lots yet. It's like, leave me alone. What is going on?
Yeah.
And it was just so difficult because I was like, right, I'm 5 micros, and then suddenly I get like 5 messages going, D, you have to trade larger. And I'm like, I don't want to. Leave me alone. So it added to more pressure. It's like now they're like controlling my positions, and I'm like F off, It's like I've got my risk management to follow. What's going on? Are we just doing this for tradertainment? So we were kind of a little bit lost in the beginning. We didn't know what TopstepTV was going to be about, and it took time for us to find our way, obviously, but the on-air talent that went through all of that, we went through hell and back, man. It was quite hilarious. I think even now that board still affects me, even though I know that people who are like we know the other side of the story. You see them making big money one day, and then, like you said, Jerome, the very next day is their worst day ever, right? And then they just continue that. It's like. So it's like, what is the point? So I don't even want to know that now. And like yourself, I just switched that part off. So yeah.
Exactly. Thank you for that. So
Yeah.
just before we hop off, MRVN answered yes with the smallest amount possible. So whether it was a win or a loss, I assume it was a loss. Anyway, regardless, we advise you to practice what we suggested today, which is journaling, emotionally journaling what happened today and the previous days. Not necessarily try to journal what happened 5 days ago, because you might not be able to be accurate enough and therefore bias yourself, but at least the last 2 days. And then reflect on that. Follow our slides that are shared on Discord. Learn from that and approach tomorrow with a different eye, a different perception. So what is your current status? Is it 5-6 days losing streak, or is it I am just starting my account? My advice would be to approach tomorrow with a prepared mind. I use the word prepared because it's easier to say than to do. A prepared mind with which tomorrow is your 0 day. It's your starting day. Whatever your balance is, size properly, but do not think about what happened in the past. Do not let the losing days or winning days define your actions of tomorrow. Okay, what about tomorrow is better than today? Do you know it? No. So why would you approach the next day thinking, I lost yesterday, I'm losing my trust? No, this is the whole point of the segment. You need to do this mental reset so it can help you. And if tomorrow you lose, guess what will happen? You will have a whole different physical and mental reaction towards the loss versus the last 5 days, because the approach and the perception and the intention will be different. So MRVN said was a little loss, but was too much up and down, moved there, so it hit my SL. Okay, this is the technical part. Now you can dig into what is your process. Do you put stops at break even? Do you take partials? Do you secure profits? There's no right or wrong answers. The answers are, what do you do usually? What did you do well and what did you not? And then identify these and not reproduce what you didn't do well, and reproduce what you did well, and go forward from these spaces. But if every single day you're like, oh, I put a trade, this happened, I was up, I was down, I was up, I was down, and then Trump announced something on China and it effed me out. No, that's not what happened, my friend. That's not what happened. That's the story you want to narrate yourself with, and it's okay. But if you want to progress, if you want to evolve, if you want to grow, our humble suggestion would be to apply what we shared today and mentally get into the process of resetting. Perhaps it will not work today, but guess what? I bet it will work on Friday or next Monday. So yeah, keep us tuned in and let us know if you were able to make this reset.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we're pretty interactive. We do the lectures, and and then we answer the Q&As, but we love seeing people progressing. And if you have any problems, tune back in and we'll answer the questions. Bab J has a question for you, Jerome, and me. Could you say something about adding to a position, especially when the trade is going your way? Is it good to add or not? Another loaded one.
Do you want to answer this? I've always said, yeah, it's good to add on winners, and you have the sentence winners average winners and losers average losers.
Yeah.
I transparently say that I used to average losers when I was not profitable. I stopped doing that. I didn't start to add into winners necessarily, but I stopped adding into losers, and I started to become profitable. And I've not yet started to learn how to add into winners. This is a whole different approach, execution, understanding, process, etc. But it's something I am leaning forward to, and I would always vouch for adding into winners indeed. What do you think about it, Coach T?
So I am against people starting with one lot, then adding another one. So especially if it moves too far away, purely from a data perspective, if you have a zone that you're working with and you've entered with one lot and then it moves like a bazillion ticks, what's going to happen if you add and then you have no more momentum? We have markets that are a little bit fickle these days, and they go up and down, as one of my Australian traders, Northerly, says, like the horse drawers, which is very funny, slightly not for kids, right? But it's a funny statement. Very true, though. When you add 100% of your original position, that will mess up your average entry to the point where it just makes no sense for the original trade. And then people start messing with trailing stops to try and control the risk better. And yet that has nothing to do with the market structure. So now your stop is in an area that makes no sense because of the new average. That bothers the hell out of me from a technical perspective, right? I'm fairly, I'm fairly methodical, but also a little bit OCD when it comes to entries sometimes. Not to the point I'm looking for perfection, but it's I want my trade to roughly be in the zone where I planned my initial trade. So I would only add if my beginning position is, say, 3 lots, and then you add 1. That way, you're not going to mess up your average too much, but you're going to increase the upside a little bit, right? Enough to make a difference. And you'd be surprised how much just a small add of like a third or a quarter of a position can make a difference to your P&L. I'm somebody who advocates smoothness in the volatility curve with relatively low variability. And that means you're consistent across everything. So if one day you're adding 100% to your position, and then another day you're adding a tiny amount, that's inconsistency, right? So for me, that bothers me a lot. So the way I do it, again, there's no right or wrong answer. Just be mindful that if you're adding 100% of your original position, that completely messes up the average. There are times when there's a momentum trade that just keeps going in the same direction, but we don't know that, right? You don't know whether something is going to carry on. You can use some data to fall back on it. But personally, I trade instruments that are a little bit more tricky than that. So when they bounce a lot. So it's like, what's that going to do to my average if I now keep adding to it? I know that everybody keeps quoting Tom Hugard about his book, how he says he adds like a lunatic, but he actually had an interview at one of the seminars that he was doing, and somebody asked him about that. And last year, he said around, I think it was like February, March, that adding aggressively into positions blew up in his face. He didn't blow up an account, he's a very rich man, but it blew up in his face. So, just be careful with adding. There are times when adding is appropriate. Just don't go adding 100% to your position. I am somebody who does like to average into trades because I work off of a zone, but I don't just add because I think it's going to go this way. I, again, use data, and I use a measure called maximum adverse excursion that I've measured over the last sort of 13 years of me doing this, right? So I know that on most days, my MAE point for winning trades is frequently around 60% into the trade entry, the original one. So I use that weakness to enter another trade to improve the average, right? But again, it's based in data. It's not based in my feelings. It's not based in, anything. I have the type of the setup where my MAEs worked, and I have other types of setups where MAEs didn't work, right? So it was a losing trade at the end. So there's no point adding into them. So again, I will add into a loser, but I don't call it that way. I call it averaging or building a position around the zone, if that makes sense. So in my case, that will actually improve the outlook on my 2R multiples defaults, because by improving my average, I'm also lowering the stop. Stop doesn't change. Stop always stays the same. So therefore, if I have a 30 tick stop, but I manage to average into a trade at like, let's say 15 ticks of drawdown, what that means, now I have a 24 tick stop, yet I still maintain a 60 tick 2R, which net then improves my net outcome. And now it's 2.5. It's not, 2R like I want it to be. So, so there are pros and cons to all of it, but I just look at it from a data perspective. But whatever you do, like I said, don't add 100% to the position because it's just going to mess up everything. I've never really seen people managing positions very well. Those that do have a lot of experience, like Dakota, he's able to average in, but he also does this thing where he goes in with most of the position and then maybe adds 1 or 2. So he goes in with 3, he will add 1 or 2. So just be mindful of how he does it. So he won't go, I'm starting with 5, I will add another 5. No, he's got a maximum default position size in mind, which in his case, depending on where he is in P&L, is between 3 and 5, right? And then he works with that maximum default position. He doesn't go over it. So if you say to yourself, today I'm only going to be trading 5 micros, don't go into 5 micros and then it goes in your favor and then add more. Because now you've doubled up your maximum default size. You're deviating from the plan, and that's probably like high on hopium. This thing will keep going. And then it doesn't, and then you're stuck with trying to do something that is not a part of your plan. It will derail your mindset for sure. So those are my thoughts on it.
Completely agreed.
Vital says, hi, Yeah, so I'm a bit passionate on that because I see people getting themselves in so much trouble adding to positions in the wrong way, and then I get all fired up. I'm like, don't do that. Vital says, Heidi, when is it better to use break even or stop loss? I'm going to say never, but again, I'm very confident in my positions. I don't like messing around with stop losses. The reason being is that whenever, again, me speaking from a data point and being just somebody who worked on mechanical trading systems and seeing what break even does for people and for systems, basically completely cuts off the profit potential. So I'm not in favor of it. Whenever you start introducing new variables that are not a part of the system that you initially tested. So let's say you test a level without putting it to break even and you have a stop loss. Now that level is probably going to get retested. Like 9 times out of 10, you're going to get a retest of your entry. And then you're right on direction. So it goes your way by a million ticks and you're not in on it. Which one feels worse? You being outright wrong on the trade and accepting the initial risk, or the one where you were right, but you got diddly squat out of it? I know my answer. Jerome, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, the same most probably, but yeah, people struggle with that, and it's very personal putting like moving stops, and for me, it's the exact same process as you just highlighted for adding into winners or losers, especially winners. It's doing another trade, right? It's every time you add, you make another trade. So when you put your stop to break even, you make another trade. It's like the the moment you put stop to break even means technically you enter the trade and you put a stop at this level. Your stop is a break even stop, but technically if you were not in a trade, it's as is you entered this level and you put the stop at the level you entered, but your
Yeah.
entry is not there. So it's another trade. So when people are like, oh, I put my stop at break even, I got stopped and then it ran out. Okay, it happened to me so many times. I completely agree. The mistake is probably in the identification of the entry. That's what I identified for myself. I was like, okay, that's where I put my stop to break even. Now I don't do it anymore. But when I put my stop to break even, I was like, okay, what if somebody who entered right here, where would be the stop of somebody who entered right here? Sorry. And I would think that. And I was like, okay, if I entered here, I would probably put my stop there. And oh, guess what? My stop is my actual entry at break even. I was like, okay, makes sense. People
Yeah.
get stopped, so my stop is misplaced. So I started to identify how to have better entries, or how to identify that my entry is not good, so therefore I shouldn't put my stop to break even. Also, it depends on your style as well. If you're a heavy size scalper, you wanna put stops to break even
Yeah.
very very fast when you trade with size. But when you don't trade with size, I don't think you necessarily need stops to break even. It's more about fear of losing the profits or losing like P&L, rather than the process of trading. Like you said,
I
it's
100%
putting another
agree.
trade up.
Yeah. So anytime I see people moving stops to break even, it's always the fear of loss. They don't want to accept the risk on the trade, and that's the core reason for moving the break to break even. That shouldn't be the reason for moving your stop to break even. It should be because technically you have another structure that was created, and now you can maybe add to that. And here's the thing: back in the day, we had this platform, it still exists, called MetaTrader 4. Now MetaTrader 4 did not net off your positions, so you could actually place multiple trades with multiple stop losses on the same product. So therefore, I was doing this. Yeah, I called it pyramiding in. So it's not really averaging in, even though it kind of is, but pyramiding in. Why? Because you're entering in the direction of your trade, right? So it's pyramiding. You're building a position in the same direction.
Nice one.
And whenever I would be entering another trade, this was doing swings. I wasn't doing it intraday, just to put that out there. So it was across like a 2-week period. I would be waiting for the new structure, but maybe new demand to form before I would enter yet another trade that would have its separate stop loss. So that kind of taught me about the same thing that Jerome is saying. If you're going to move your stop, it's a new trade. Every time you add and move the stop, it's a new trade. Doesn't make sense in the market structure. If not, if you couldn't find another setup, even if you weren't in a trade, it's a nonsense trade. So it's like, what are we doing, right? So if you can't explain it to yourself, it's going to be much more difficult to manage your risk. I suppose that's what we're trying to say, right?
Exactly, completely.
All right, we're out of time, so we could
Yep.
sit here talk forever, right? But we do have to move on with some other things. I actually have somewhere I need to be. Jerome, thank you so much for doing this. I'm really enjoying the Neuro Wednesdays. I'm just blown away at your expertise and your ability to connect trading with neuroscience and then to give us actionable tips and steps how we can replace some of the bad habits. So thank you so much. Any final words here for our traders before we sign off?
Thank you. Thank you for being here and taking time for yourself. As an advice, pick one thing, at least one. If you want to pick all of them, then you're more than welcome. But pick one practice, pick one structure, pick one path, one way of helping yourself, mental resilience, emotional loop, whatever it is that help you, or whatever it is, depending on your need, pick one thing, and hopefully it will help you becoming a better trader. That's our take.
Well said. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Jerome. I will see you again tomorrow for the Euro trade, and Jerome will see you again next Wednesday. Are you on fast markets at all this week,
Not
Jerome?
today.
Not
Not
today.
no, I don't think so.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, so that's it. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. The clips, the slides are going to be in the Discord channel in trading/psychology, not slash trading-psychology. I need more coffee. Yeah, so thank you for being here. This is the Eurotrade on TopstepTV, Neuro Wednesdays. We had Dr. Jerome with us. I'm Market Stalker D. Enjoy the rest of your day and take care.
Thank you. Bye bye.